Good morning, Days with Jordan the Lion. What you're looking at right now is the lifeblood of this apartment that keeps it functioning, pouring into my glass. Hope you guys enjoyed yesterday's vlog. That was a fun one for me. Not fun because I was going to see somebody's death, but I always love running into somebody that has a story, and that lady had some great stories, so. We're going to be up and about and on our way out here pretty soon.
Alright, today's shoes are back to wearing the Air Jordan Chris Paul's. Well, today is Voters Day, or Election Day, and boy, could it not have come fast enough. This really brings out like the worst in everybody. I'll be glad to see this all over. I'll be glad to see my social media back to people just talking about what they're interested in and not everybody being a know-it-all. You know, people like Casey Neistat on YouTube have said that it's vloggers' responsibility to let their fans know who they're voting for. No, it's not. It's a vlogger's responsibility to tell the people whatever it is that they want to divulge to them. That's the way vlogging works. I mean, no reason to turn people against you because you may have a different political view. I'll go ahead and say it. I'm gonna go vote today, but I am not voting for president. My conscience won't allow me to vote for either one. So I'm gonna go vote on props, I'm gonna go vote on initiatives. I'm sure I'll probably lose some subscribers for saying that. But I'm sorry, I just can't support the process of picking the lesser of the two evils when I think that there is no lesser. I just won't participate in that section of it. You know, I hope you guys can understand that. But I hope you use your voice in whatever way you see fit. Don't let somebody tell you that however you want to vote is a wasted vote. However you want to vote is how you should vote. It sends a message either way. So after today, we'll all be done with this, and how great will that be? As Americans, we always have like seen our way through it anyway, so you know, we'll just ride the tide like a surfer, and I'm sure we'll be fine in the end. Hopefully. Can you see that rainbow? They kicked the sprinklers on here at the park, and I looked over and just saw this rainbow, and I'm like, hey, first time on the vlog for a rainbow. See what you will, he has good form. Guy's got moves. Well, I just got emailed and asked if I could work a really quick job because it's actually a block away from me. It's a 2-hour job for 50 bucks cash, and I pretty much have to do nothing except for be there. So I'm gonna go do that. And it's actually at a pretty cool place called Rockwell, so maybe I'll try and get that on the vlog if they don't have too much of a set going that I'd get in trouble for filming that. In a real oddity, we got some real food. Alright, after an hour I'm done. We're gonna go check out something I went to a long time ago. This is a handmade store. Handmade everything, handmade cards. How awesome is that? Cool. So in 2002, I had a girlfriend that I met because she ran like the best pizza place. Well, she was like the person that took all the orders of like the best pizza place in town. And her best friend knew FORREST Ackerman. And she took me over to FORREST Ackerman's Ackermansion, the 18-room mansion, literally the day that he moved out. So I got to go to the Ackermansion and the mini Ackermansion that he moved into next. So we're gonna go to both of those today. FORREST Ackerman was a literary agent, and then ran Famous Monsters of Family magazine and coined the term science fiction. When I met FORREST, one of the first things that he showed me was that every day on his hand he wore Bela Lugosi's Dracula ring. Well, here is the Acker Mansion, the famous Acker Mansion. And this place, wow. This could tell stories. I mean, this was, like I said, I came up here right as he was moving out. And one of the cool things about this is that Forry was like, he loved to share his memorabilia with the world. So he actually would allow people to come in here on Saturdays. It was open to the public and you could come in. This is it. It was $24.95, and I remember coming up here. You would walk through this gate, and right at the front door, right up there, he had a welcome mat that said, "Welcome to Hollywood, California." And it's 18 rooms, and when I walked in, there was a lot of green shag carpeting, a lot of orange shag carpeting, and he let me wander through the whole place, and it was really, to be perfectly honest with you, it was a hoarder's paradise. He told me that he had 300,000 pieces of memorabilia in there. Most of them were books and magazines. He had tons and tons of pictures of, like, I wouldn't even say burlesque. It was almost bondage pictures all over the walls. He loved that kind of stuff, he told me. And he laughed about it when he said it. He said he told Vampire she could whip him anytime that she wanted. But here's like a lot of the weird stuff about FORREST Ackerman that makes him so interesting was that FORREST was the original literary agent for Ray Bradbury. He introduced Ray Bradbury to Ray Harryhausen, and he was also the literary agent for L. Ron Hubbard. And Forry actually was way, way, way early on in the science fiction movement. In fact, he went to the very first science fiction convention and was dressed up and was like one of the first people to do that. Kind of like an early cosplayer. And yeah, this was his place. And so he had tons of memorabilia signed by everybody. He showed me, because I told him I was a big Vincent Price fan, he showed me all these pictures signed by Vincent Price. He showed me pictures signed by just about every famous monster you could ever want to meet or ever want to see. And he had pictures of him with all of them, and all of his stuff that was signed had personal messages from these guys. Like, I remember Vincent Price had a really funny message on there. I don't remember what it was, but it was something like, "You old dirty devil, Forry, I'll never forget you. Your pal Vinny," or something like that. And yeah, so when I came in here, there was a guy who was helping Forrest move, and Forrest was pretty much broke. So what the guy said was, he said, "We're gonna keep all of Forry's favorite stuff, and he's gonna move it. It's all moved over to his new house," and he invited us over there to see it, and we went that day. And he said, "Forry's gonna sell the rest of everything that's in here. We're gonna start posting it on eBay, and we're gonna put it in auction houses and sell it privately and do various things with it." He said, "We want to look at it as Forry took care of all of this stuff throughout his life, and now it's going to take care of him for the rest of his life." So when I got to go over to the other house, then he let me see Bela Lugosi's cape. Forry always wore Bela Lugosi's ring. And man, just what an interesting dude this was. Read up on Forrest J. Ackerman. I learned about him right before I moved out here because my friend Seth was heavy into Famous Monsters magazine, Famous Monsters of Filmland. So when I got to meet Forrest, it was just a real honor and a real thrill, and unfortunately he's passed away now, but boy, what a character he was. You can see lots and lots of interviews with him online. He's a real likable guy and a real cool person. So this was the Acker Mansion. If you've ever read about Forrest J. Ackerman, this was the famous Acker Mansion. And the house that we're going to next, his last place over on Russell, you wouldn't believe it, but they're in the last few years of his life, since he was just so feeble and everything, he would go eat all the time at the House of Pies, and he ended up leaving his favorite waitress at the House of Pies a lot in his will. But he had people talk about the last couple of years of his life. George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, pretty much anybody who was influential in science fiction movies now, they all came and visited him and thanked him for being the person that made them love science fiction so much. So this was the Acker Mansion. $24.95 Glendower. I don't know who owns it now, but this is exactly the way it looked when I was here. Right on the corner, like right on a curve. And this is the garage. What a nice guy. He really was such a nice guy to me. He told me then, anytime you want to come back, feel free. And I never did, and I really wish I would have. One of the things that was most interesting to me was I asked Forrest, how did you get all of this stuff? And he said, science fiction movies weren't that big, and they were just going to throw it away. All the studios were, and I was a prop guy. So I went in there and offered them little money, or I just offered to take it so they didn't have to throw it away. He said that's how I got Bela Lugosi's cape and some of the props from Creature from the Black Lagoon and things like that. He said they were just going to throw it away, and I just said I would take it so they didn't have to throw it away. Pretty cool. Here's a picture of Forry at home in the Acker Mansion with some of his favorite Universal monsters. There's a big portion of his book collection. He had over 300,000 collectibles, many of which were books. Masks, action figures, paintings, anything from a movie, and including Bela Lugosi's cape from Dracula and Plan 9 from Outer Space. Now I know it looks pretty run down, but this is where FORREST Ackerman moved into next. The day that I met him on a Saturday. And like I told you guys before, I had been lucky enough to get to go up to the Acker Mansion just as he was moving out, and the guy that was helping him sell some of his artifacts really took a liking to me and my friend and said, why don't you go over and meet us over at Forry's new house? Some of his artifacts are over there. His favorite stuff has already been moved over there. Everything that's in the old mansion is going to be sold. So he invited us over here, and Forry actually already had some stuff set up, and some of the things that he had set up when I walked in a room, he had a replica from Metropolis. He loved that movie so much he'd seen it hundreds of times. He wanted the original robot from it, but nobody could seem to find it, so he found the blueprints for it and had someone make an exact replica of it, and always had it displayed in here with a little stuffed monkey. And I asked him what the significance of the monkey was, and he said that there were two of those monkeys. Both were Fritz Lang's, and Fritz Lang was buried with one of the monkeys, and Forry owned the second one. Now, also at the time, he had me sit down in a chair, and it was like an electric chair, and it was from one of the Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein movies or something. But he also showed me, like I told you guys, he had always worn Dracula's ring, and ever since he had gotten Dracula's ring, he never not wore it. He never took it off. He also showed me on a mannequin in here that he had the robe that Bela Lugosi wore for Dracula, and also wore in Plan 9 from Outer Space. He had the mask that was used in Creature from the Black Lagoon. I mean, he had so much stuff in here, and he was so friendly and so nice. He would just let you walk around and just touch all of it. It was crazy. So now, this place, from what I understand, all the way up until January and February of this year, there's a petition going on trying to get this turned into a memorial for Forry Ackerman, and they want to get what's left of his stuff that's been parceled out to museums and different places around the world. They kind of want to bring it all back here and make this a museum to Forrest. This was his final home. I believe like I said, we moved him in here in 2002, and I think he lived here till he died in 2009, I want to believe. But the cool thing about Forrest was that he kept, like I told you at his old mansion, he kept up this thing where every Saturday it was open to the public, and you could come in and take a tour of his house. Here's a picture of Forry in the Acker mini mansion that I visited when he moved there. Quite a few of his collectibles. Here's the Creature from the Black Lagoon mask that he owned, and Dracula's ring that he never took off. Wow. Unfortunately, it's that time of the day. Ugh. And even more of an ugh is having to go do this. You know what's crazy is that ever since the time change happened, I feel like the days are just twice as long. Usually if I would have woken up at 7 or 8 o'clock, next thing I know, within a blink of an eye, it's 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, and well, when I thought it was 4 or 5 o'clock today, it was only 2:02. So let's go get this out of the way. Kind of crazy, my polling place is actually my old church. It's like a couple of blocks away. I used to go to this church called Ecclesia, and Joseph, my pastor now at Radius, he was the pastor there, and then he was able to open his own church, so I followed over there and started helping out from the ground up there. But yeah, it's gonna be weird. I haven't been in this place since probably 2 years. You can actually see it from here. It's that big purple building right there. On Saturdays, it's a Seventh-day Adventist church, because I guess they go to church on Saturdays, and then on Sundays it's Ecclesia. My polling place right there. Well, I'm done. I am a little stupefied as to why they don't ask for ID for voting. I went in, they asked my last name, they looked me up, they asked my first name, I told them, they said my address out loud to me, asked me if that was it, I said yep, and they gave me a ballot. Seems weird. Seems like you could just go all over town and cast votes all over town if you want to do that in that way. I don't know, am I wrong? Am I missing something? Alright, Little Debbie. Who doesn't love Little Debbie's? Man, that was my favorite snack cake growing up. My mom and dad both used to have those in their house. God, I love them. Those petunias? Hey, I just wanted to send a little positivity and a little shout out to Mark Tinworth in the UK. He's waiting to hear on some cancer results tomorrow, and my dad died of cancer, so I sincerely hope that it's good news, buddy. Take care. I was in the mood for some Chinese food. Authentic. There's the Frank Drebin spot again. I'll probably point that out forever now.
Well, they're basically saying now that Hillary has to win everything but Wisconsin to be able to win, so it's looking like we're going to have a Donald Trump presidency.
Better hope there's a bunch of vote there.
So there you go.
Hillary Clinton has telephoned Donald Trump to concede this election.
Who would have ever guessed? What a surreal thought. Vlog over.